Oh, good evening, committee. As soon as Al gets everyone, our guests in, we'll start. Oops, and I think I should probably turn on my camera. Here we go. Been a busy couple of weeks.
Good to go whenever you are ready, sir.
Okay, we are recording. Right, 6:02, meeting will come to order. Public Safety Committee of the New Haven Board of Alders will hold its second workshop on the following matter on Tuesday, June 1st, 2021 at 6 p.m. via video conference at https://bit.ly/2THWGKO and by audio at 301-715-8592 or 312-626-6799. Web ID 997-05387702 with this special audio only passcode 525-36355. Crime Trends and Solutions in New Haven. For Honorable Gerald M. Antunes, Chair, attest Honorable Michael B. Smart, City Clerk. For accessibility-related requests, please contact 203-946-7651 voice or 203-946-8582 TTY prior to meeting. To view the meeting, go to https://bit.ly/2THWGKO or Board of Alders YouTube channel. I'd like to welcome everyone here this evening. Sorry for the kind of late meeting. We had to cancel our last meeting due to holidays. So we wanted to make sure we got this one in time. I'll ask my committee, first of all, to introduce themselves. I know my vice chair may be a few minutes late. He had another appointment. And I see he's not here as yet. So we'll start with Alder Crespo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Alder Jose Crespo, Ward 16.
Alder Roth.
Happy Roth, Ward 7.
I didn't see Alder Haywood. And we'll go right to Alder Singh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Alder Singh, Ward 5.
And Alder Smith.
Alder Smith, Ward 30.
And I see my vice chair has arrived. Alder Wingate.
Alderman Wingate, Ward 29, Beaver Hills.
I'm Alder Gerald Antunes, Ward 12, Quinnipiac Meadows. I will chair this meeting. This is a follow-up workshop to continue the roundtable discussion from last February 18th of 2021. Now, we hope to hear the results of the work the invited speakers who were here last February from various law enforcement and criminal justice agencies committed to do to reduce or end the number of violent crimes that have been happening in the city. Now, there are initiatives that have worked in the past and that are still being used. It's apparent that some of those techniques may not be as effective today as they were in the past. Now, I don't have all the answers. I don't think anyone on this honorable board does, but believe me, if I did, I would not just be sitting here addressing them. I'd be doing what I could to help solve the problems. Now, there have been some comments about criticism I've read, but not every negative comment on this issue is criticism. It's a way of recognizing the issue and bringing it to light and imploring those with the knowledge, training, and authority to resolve it. Again, like our last meeting, I'll start by asking the participants to discuss the work their agency did and what the results were so far. Now, it's been 4 months. That was from February 18th. So we feel that there should be some reportable progress to report by each agency. They made commitments at the end of the last meeting of things that they would do to attempt to address this problem. Then we'll have questions after that from my colleagues on this committee. Now I'll ask each of the speakers, each person who speaks, to state their name and address of record at the start of their testimony. So everyone knows we have it on record, and those who are listening and can't see can identify who's talking. All right, I think we'll get started. Chief Dominguez, don't look so disappointed. You look sad sitting there. Now, I know the numbers are probably not what you want to boast about. Apparently, they've been pretty high since our last meeting, but I'll ask you to go first. And I believe Chief Jacobson is here as well. And those who you asked to help you out, to introduce yourselves and tell us what you've done in the past 4 months.
Good evening, Renee Dominguez. I am the acting chief of the police department, 1 Union Avenue, New Haven, Connecticut. So for the past 3 months or so, numerous things have been able to move forward as we are coming out of COVID and able to kind of getting back to pre-COVID operations in the police department. With that said, our numbers are higher than they have been. 42 non-fatal shootings and 13 homicides compared to last year at 31 non-fatal shootings and 4 homicides. We have several partner related collaborations that we do, which we do believe is how we're going to be able to continue to reduce the violence. As we talked about last meeting, Project Longevity. Since then, we had a February 18th meeting where 18 individuals were called in. And we have another call in on June 10th, where we're hoping to call in approximately 30 individuals because we have more ability to have more space in facilities where we're holding these. As of today, we've done 108 custom notifications. Now, if you need more, Chief Jacobson later can go in further, but custom notifications are where the police and Project Longevity staff, Stacy Spell, community members, most recently district managers, so we're using patrol and investigative services, go out to individuals that we think are potential for committing violence or being victims of violence. And we try to have a pre-intervention. We think these have been going well. We've been trying to do 20 a week. And like I said, we're at 108 custom notifications. And just to put that in perspective, that's from February to May. Last year, or in a normal year, we do 100 for a year. So we have really stepped up what we are doing in having outreach and providing services prior to individuals committing acts of violence or being victims of acts of violence. The last group was 26 people we identified, and of those, we were actually able to meet 18 in a week. And we believe that this is what led to a decrease in violence, because approximately 2 weeks ago, we saw a huge spike in violence, 7 shootings, 3 homicides, which is really unheard of for us. We went out, we identified, we worked with our partners, and we were able to meet 18 of the 26 people, and knock on wood, I hate to say the words, we have seen a drastic reduction just comparing 2 weeks ago to the past 2 weeks. We also have Project Safe Neighborhoods, which we work, Project Longevity is group or gang related, and Project Safe Neighborhood is calling in individuals underneath the same kind of premise, but we're able to kind of close all the loops and all the gaps that we potentially could be missing out on groups of people. Those are every other month. Our next one is July 26th. We just had one in May. And overall, we've been able to call in 35 people. Again, as we move out of COVID, we're going to be able to see more people at one time. Court, as of today, trials are starting again. And we think that there are individuals, or we know there are individuals out there who have been unable to be sentenced and have their trials and gone through the court process. So now that things are starting again and it's more of a typical what we're normal seeing, we're hoping that these individuals who should have been sentenced, who have multiple cases, will be sentenced, and that will also decrease our violence. we are we have a meeting next week looking to expand ShotSpotter into the Exit 8, District 9, Quinnipiac Avenue area. So we're hoping that that will be a successful meeting and we'll be able to report back at our next meeting that we actually have been able to expand and give the particulars on that. About 7 days now, we've also increased walking beats. So the custom notifications along with walking beats in the areas, we do believe that that presence alone is helping us. You're going to be seeing walking beats in all the districts. We're going to be moving them around as needed based on crime prevention, not reaction. Obviously, if there is a need post event, we will also do that. But this is to prevent crime. This is to engage in the community. This is to give out information that the city has to offer, summer programs, Ring doorbell programs that the police department is partnering with, any kind of literature that we can give out to the community, something that the officers can hand out. And that's making connections and interactions between the officers and the community. I'm going to let Chief Jacobson talk about the Crime Intel Center, the Gun Crime Intel Center. But prior to that, I just want to talk about two other things. We are in the process of doing our backgrounds for our next class. We're hoping to see a class in October. And if we have satellite academies that open up prior or open after our academy class, we're going to push as many people into available academies as possible. And the other thing that we've seen 2 times posting in a row is our laterals. We have 4 laterals on the list. We're pretty confident with the way our backgrounds are going that we're going to be able to be through the process to be able to present them to the Board of Police Commissioners in the July meeting. And as soon as that's posted, as soon as we're through that list, we'll be able to post again. So we got 1 lateral off the last list, and we're currently in the process of doing these 4 laterals. So while it might not seem like one officer makes a difference, every officer makes a difference, and we're doing everything we can to get more officers so that we can be more successful. And the last thing, the most important thing that I think we talked about last time was PAL Camp. And it is a go. We're doing 3 weeks in July like we normally do. 80 campers, age 8 to 11. Right now we have about 60. We are going to definitely fill the 80. We're doing it a little bit different, taking in applications due to COVID so that we can have one-on-one contact and not have too many people waiting to turn in their applications. It is again going to be at Cross. Sergeant Ferrante has an amazing camp plans because they can't travel. So he has literally brought everything he possibly could bring to the camp because they can't go on field trips. And it really is going to be amazing. And it might be the best one yet, even though we've had to do it with reduced numbers in COVID. And that's really building relationships with kids, with our SROs at a young age to hopefully move them into our Police Explorer program, move them into our Police Cadet program, and then move them into be police officers. So it's a progression that we know if you talk to many officers on the job, what is the defining moment that made them want to be a police officer? It was their SRO. It was having youth activities with police. So we're super excited that we were able to make that happen and make it happen to the excellent level that we normally can. I'm going to turn it over to Assistant Chief Jacobson to do Crime Gun Intel Center. And then also he can do an ATV detail update. And then I will gladly answer any questions if I missed something that anybody has for me.
Chief Jacobson.
Yes, sir. Assistant Chief Carl Jacobson, 1 Union Avenue, New Haven, Connecticut. So to start off, I'd like to dive into the numbers a little because we talk about numbers and we talk about where we are with violence. And first off, one of our worst years ever to date in the last 20 years was 2011. 2011 at this point in the year in 2011, we had 59 shootings and 15 homicides. So we're still not at 2011 numbers. Listen, don't get me wrong. We're high and we're doing everything possible, but we have seen some good trends. In the month of April 2020, we only had 7 shootings and no homicides of this 2021. So this year, 7 shootings, no homicides. 2 of those shootings were double shootings. So that's really only 4 shooting incidents. So everything we did in February and March, we saw the effects in April. Then if you look into May, we had 14 shootings and 4 homicides. Terrible, way too many. But you dissect 1 week, in 6 days, we had 7 shootings and 3 homicides. And after those 7 shootings and 3 homicides, our units, along with our federal partners, went out and were able to grab 5 or 6 specific people that we know have been involved in this and grab, I think it was 6 guns. So this was a stop safe on what we just went through. And then, like the chief said, we brought in all our federal partners, some community members and some other people, and we identified 24 people that we wanted to go custom. And we were able to make 18 customs last week alone. Now we're looking at the last 12-day period. Yes, we did have a homicide. The details of that are not your typical homicide. But besides that, no shootings. So the work we're doing is paying dividends. We just have to make sure that we get that long-term effect. And one of those things is, like Chief said, courts are resuming trials. There's people with several different cases out there that have made bond. They'll be brought in. They will get a sentence. Perfect example, one of our kids that's, well, not kids, he's a 20-year-old, but has been involved in multiple different incidents, has been shot twice himself. He ended up pleading out to a year today. Now, a year isn't very much, but that removes him from this violence. Then when he comes back into the community a year from now, we have things in place that will hopefully keep him out of the violence. So these are the things that I think are going to work and the chief thinks are going to work. Back to the gun numbers, we see 70 guns with 74 arrests. ATF could not make it today. They wanted to let you guys know that since our last meeting in February, they've opened 5 gun trafficking cases, and they've concluded a gun trafficking case where we saw multiple handguns being brought up to New Haven from South Carolina. They sent agents and task force officers down to South Carolina, made arrests in that case, and seized over 30 handguns. So that's a big win for us in the flow of guns. And they've made a commitment since this meeting with you, Alder Antunes, to go after those guns. And like I said, they've opened 5 new cases. We obviously can't get into the specifics of that. Then back to the Crime Gun Intel Center. There is a kiosk now. And what that means is when we collect shell casings, we can bring them up to the lab any time of the day or night and put them into a kiosk, and we'll get the results within 24 to 72 hours. That's extremely important to us because that's, I know I explained it last time, giving us the ability to link shootings and link homicides and everything else. That was not up and functional. It's not 100% functional yet, but we are starting to get results. We're having people run up there and put those into the kiosk, and we're starting to get quicker results. That's going to be huge, along with ShotSpotter, to be able to collect all these shell casings. So the Gun Crime Intel Center is not fully operational yet, but it's getting there. Part of that is the shooting task force. We're waiting for some MOUs to be signed, but we've already started with the shooting task force. In one case I want to highlight, there was a situation where 14 rounds were dumped in a neighborhood. Nobody was hit, but the shooting task force went out there, 2 straight days, interviewed people, were able to get enough evidence, and they arrested the kid for felon in possession and attempted assault first, which is an excellent charge. That person's since been arrested, and that's a good end result. This is what we hope to do more when we have all the pieces in place of the shooting task force. And we thank the state's attorney's office for the ability to do these types of cases, especially Inspector Vasquez, who's on. He's been instrumental in helping us get this shooting task force back on its feet. When we do have all the pieces in place, they will look back on the multiple people who are either shot or shots fired that are linked by multiple gun rounds. So those are the incidents that happen time and time again with the same gun. So we're almost there where we're going to have the ability to go after those guns, go after the people who have those guns. We also wanted to report that this year in 2021, we made 17 non-fatal shooting arrests. They're not all from 2021, but they're an array from 2017 on. And we've made 3 homicide arrests so far. We also have 2 homicide warrants going down to the state's attorney's office in the near future. So we're making progress with these cases. I feel like we're getting more information from the community. I feel like, the community's tired of the violence as well. And with the adoption of the walking beats that the chief talked about, we'll get out there and start talking to more people and start getting more positive results. I think That's what I had, Chief. Did I miss anything?
No, I think that's it.
Sounds good. A lot of activity. But I think maybe we'll wait with the questions for each after each agency's been able to give their reports. Okay, is everyone good with that? Makes sense. All right. You said ATF Reardon was not able to be here. Is that right?
Yes, sir. He sends his apology.
Okay.
He had a family matter.
All right, I understand. I mean, and I guess he's made good with his commitment. He said he was going to increase the work to stop the flow from the south, and that's excellent. He said 30 arrests. Next, we're going to turn to the state's attorney's office, and I know that's not Griffin, but that face looks awful familiar. Inspector Vasquez.
How you doing, Mr. Antoon? How are you?
Good, good. Name and address for the record, please.
Yes, sir. Al Vasquez, Inspector with the New Haven State's Attorney's Office, 235 Church Street, New Haven.
Okay, give us your report.
Yes, sir. So we're working closely with the New Haven Police Department in dealing with the shooting task force and getting that up and running. We've been very involved in other homicides and shootings. In fact, I myself have shown up to the last 3 homicides directly on scene to assist whatever the state's attorney could assist with the New Haven Police Department. So right now, basically, the shooting task force is the biggest thing that we want to get up and running. I know Carl's working diligently in getting that off the ground, and nonetheless, we're here to support whatever the New Haven Police Department needs, and we continue to do that. Again, not just in the shooting task force, but everything that's coming into our doors. Obviously, as you know, the courts just opened up today in terms of dealing with trials. And so we are gearing up for a lot of trials that we actually are behind because of COVID-19. But nonetheless, that doesn't take us away from assisting with whatever the city needs.
Great, that's good. It could really assist. I'm sure the police will agree if we can kind of push some of these cases into court and get them really rolling now that the courts are back open.
Absolutely, sir. And that's what we're gearing up for to do right now. Like I said, today we are fully opened and those cases are starting to trickle in. They're obviously we're getting ready for, we're picking a jury for trial right now as we speak. Actually, today we started with that.
Great. All right, next, Chief Higgins. We had Yale Police on the agenda as well. Good evening, Chief.
Hey, good evening, all the Rantoons. Good evening, all the members of the board. Hi, Stacy. Hey, Al. Hello, everyone. Feels like a reunion.
Yeah.
So,
name and address, sir.
I'm sorry. Ronell Higgins, 101 Ashman Street, New Haven, Connecticut.
Thank you.
So, in our last meeting, when this public safety committee got together, we committed to assigning 2 Yale officers to work directly for Chief Dominguez and Chief Jacobson in the shooting task force. Those officers have been assigned and have been working for NHPD directly for a number of weeks right now. The feedback that I have gotten through our assistant chiefs has been nothing short of amazing. They're doing a heck of a job in supporting the work of the New Haven Police Department. We're also engaged in the regular intel meetings, and the conversations between both investigative units are daily. So that's what I have. Great.
Thank you. I'm glad to see that Yale's contributing. I had no doubts that they would. You guys have always been quite a help to the city of New Haven and all of our endeavors.
Thank you.
Let me see my list here. Do we have, next I had on the list was FBI. I was told someone may be here.
Sure.
Mr. Lucas is the agent from the FBI here?
Yeah, it's Joe
Yes, sir.
Altamari. I see him up here, sir.
Sir, can you hear me?
Yes, we do. Here you are.
How you doing, sir? Joseph Altamari, Supervisory Special Agent, FBI, 600 State Street, New Haven, Connecticut. So basically, we let me see. Actually, if I can start the video here. we basically work with the PD on a regular basis. Every day, we are always working with them. We have 2 current officers assigned to the Safe Streets Task Force that actually sit in New Haven. We are always assisting them with whether it be some of the crime prevention, aspects, as well as providing technical resources to what we have at a federal level and so forth regarding homicides, shootings, and other means of tracking suspects. By all means, Chief Jacobson, I think, touched on this, stuff. One of the biggest shortfalls I think we have right now is the COVID-19 pandemic and the court systems. And I think that goes at the federal level as well. We are tackling the crime the best, that we can, that be via whether it be some of the gang shootings and the gang drug dealing. A big push, obviously, is with the fentanyl heroin, aspects. So anytime that we can assist and work closely with either New Haven Police Department or with DEA and ATF on removing some of these guys off the street for those felony offenses, we do so. As far as violent crime stuff goes, I also run a big portion of the violent crime aspects here in New Haven and the surrounding area. We do put an emphasis on that. That's a lot of things that, unfortunately, over the last couple of years, we're trying to build the program back up. There are a lot of Hobbs Act robberies. What I mean by Hobbs Act robberies, I mean convenience store robberies that are armed, in which employees or customers are being assaulted. We are able to take those on as well. We're trying to get that a little bit off the ground a little bit more than what we have in the past. And I know the shooting task force is starting up. We will be devoting an agent that will sit with the shooting task force to help bring in, the cases that we can actually bring federally. It will just be more of that conduit to actually ensure that we're moving cases federally when it's appropriate. As far as the cases that we have done, recently, we have taken some pretty substantial drug dealers as well as violent offenders off the street, since February in particular. Some of these people are looking at anywhere from 5 to 10-year mandatory minimums. We will continue to do so, and we will continue to target those individuals who are causing our city to be unsafe. With that, any questions you may have, otherwise I'm good.
Okay, as I said, we're going to save the questions for the end, so please don't leave. And thank you for your input and your help. All these agencies, we found in the past that many times these, especially the federal agencies, can contribute a lot that we can't do locally. So it really helps out, and I'm sure the police really appreciate all of that input from the other agencies. Next on the list, probation. Do we have Miss Morano? Has she come yet? Said she was going to be here. Not here yet. State Police. Lettieri, is that the correct pronunciation? Is he here, Mr. Lucas?
Not yet, sir.
Not yet. Okay, we missed out on a person the last time, and I see she's here today, Miss Dory Dumas from NAACP. Would you like to introduce yourself, name and address of record, and give us your input on the crime and violence in New Haven?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, good evening. Of course, like everyone else.
Name and address first, please.
1389 Chapel Street, New Haven.
Thank you.
So like everyone else, this is a great concern to us. Every week we're hearing about something and we're getting a lot of complaints. The weather is getting warmer, crime is going up. We understand a lot of it and some of what everyone has shared, around COVID-19 and just what everyone's been through. But yeah, so I just wanted to be on here. I've been on a couple of these task force and talked, and we just want to see, what the plan is to get this under control. What's going on? How can we, as the NAACP partner, and also help in our city? So I'm really interested. I've been listening. I wasn't able to get on until about 10 minutes ago, multitasking as well. But yeah, is a great concern to the NAACP. And, we want our community and our streets to be safe. And we want to know what the plan is and what's going on. And I'm glad to see that, we have people working at all levels, through the state, FBI, and locally, because people need to feel safe in New Haven. We need to get back. We need to get these numbers down and get back to having safe streets.
Great, thank you. And I hope you're going to stay on to the end. We certainly don't want to be long like last time, but I think we have some comments that could refer or reflect on input from NAACP. I want to juggle around a little bit because I see our state rep, Representative Al Paolillo, who is, I think, co-chair of the Public Safety Committee for the state, and ask Mr. Paolillo for his input this evening.
Thank you, Alder Antunes. It's an honor to be here, and I'm kind of shifting because we're voting. We are in Hartford, and I'm actually juggling that with a management team. But I first want to thank you and your committee for your leadership, and more importantly, echo the sentiments that I've heard so far. But thank you for bringing everyone together. And I think that's extremely important, what you started in January, setting benchmarks and setting expectation levels and bringing folks together is extremely important. I do want to touch on, and actually last week, over 140 members of the Connecticut House of Representatives supported a Project Longevity bill that I see Mr. Spell. Growing up, it was Detective Spell, but certainly you've been very helpful. I want to recognize the work, certainly, of Assistant Chief Carl Jacobson. We've been going at it and trying to put this bill together the last several years. And with that bill, we've had public testimony, Stacy and Carl Jacobson and members of the police department coming together. We had over 50 folks testify around this violence reduction initiative, because we know that along with traditional policing strategies, we have to offer support and tools. And Project Longevity has benefited the city in the past, and we certainly need to be behind that now. Our entire delegation has been supportive of that effort. Senator Looney and I put forward this bill, and so it cleared the House of Representatives with over 140 votes. And I've only been up here for 5 years, and that doesn't happen much. Now it's on to the Senate. And as we look at the budget over the next week or so, we're hopeful that as we have 9 days left in our session, and we have to vote on a budget just like the Board of Alders just cleared it unanimously or close to unanimous. And congratulations to the board for adopting a budget. We're also looking at adopting our state budget. And with that, looking at providing additional resources for Project Longevity. One of the tasks also from the bill that we put forward, besides extending to the city of Waterbury, which has wanted Project Longevity to follow after the successes of Stacy and the New Haven Police Department, Chief Dominguez and Assistant Chief Jacobson and the rank and file, is that we're looking at the state to be able to offer through OPM additional resources. And we've talked a lot about what do we offer folks that come in. And I want to say how impressed I was back in January for the last call-in that was conducted in New Haven, the work that was done during COVID when it wasn't happening anywhere else. That type of togetherness that's happening right now is going to help us to keep each other accountable, but also to keep the dialogue going with community folks and bringing folks in to talk to them about alternatives, but alternatives more than just a job or more than just resources for the moment, but looking at the state, looking at ways of giving real opportunities, either through certificate programs or through community colleges, having folks have a career path and having folks have a real alternative. to complement the great work that is being done on a daily basis by the folks in New Haven. But I just want to say that it's important that the work that we do every day in our respective roles also mirror the work that we do as residents in the city, working with our law enforcement partners, working with our folks who are in the police department, our district managers, to all come together, because we are certainly better when we work together. And as I said, the delegation is certainly committed to this work and supporting the city. And we want to be there, not just for these meetings, but for year round. But I salute the work that each of you do in your various capacities in protecting and advocating for folks, and also the work that the Board of Alders does every day. So thank you for the chance to be with you tonight.
Well, thank you for taking time out from the meeting up there. And I know Stacy Spells is excited. He's having trouble staying in this chair. But before you go, I just want to let you and Chief Jacobson know that recently I was invited to the Springfield, Massachusetts Public Safety Committee meeting where they were discussing our new dirt bike law. And the committee recommended to their entire commission to incorporate the entire thing with the exception of one small piece. So hats off to you guys that really worked hard on it. And I know there were more behind the scenes, but Chief Jacobson and I was going to say all the Paolillo, moving up, you get paid more in the state. Representative Paolillo did a nice job, and apparently New Haven is setting the trends for other cities. It's nice to see.
And thank you for that acknowledgement. But I think that is a good example of folks, all stakeholders, the Board of Alders, folks coming together with the police department. You recognize the chief and the assistant chief. I also want to take the time as we're talking about working together in some of the work that is done in different police districts with district managers. We have forged separate bills. I know Alder Antunes, you have testified in front of countless committees with Assistant Chief Jacobson, and thank you for taking the time. And our lieutenant on the east side of the city, Lieutenant Renkowitz, who has put together a lot of the language on some of these bills and constantly is up there testifying. I think community policing takes forms in so many different ways. Policy certainly being one of them that we can come together. And I just want to recognize that work that is happening with the Public Safety Committee in New Haven on the Board of Alders, with our local law enforcement who are working with us constantly in the work that's going on, again, with the stakeholders on this call today. So I can't thank you enough for that diligence and for that effort and the compassion that each of you show every day. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. And again, thanks for taking a break off of the state side to spend a few minutes with us, and hope you stay as long as you can with us.
Well,
Now,
you're not going to kick me off that easy, so I'm here for a while. So.
Well, I don't know, you politicians from up there, yeah. I know he's ready to go. Mr. Stacy Spell, please give your report. Name and address for the record.
Stacy R. Spell, 157 Church Street, 25th floor. Good evening, all. Good evening, alders to the committee, and especially to you, Alder Antunes. We go way back when we were both very, very, very young men.
Hey, you beat me up on that at the last meeting, Give me...
We have been around for a while.
Yes, we have.
Project Longevity New Haven is thriving. We've been operating this whole time during COVID. We had to be mindful as we try to conduct day-to-day operations, and especially for some of us being of an age frame that should really be concerned with health conditions that we have to be mindful. But regardless, we still were able to operate. We are back in the full swing. Last week, we were out with the police department, and we had 5 different teams that were conducting custom notifications throughout the community. A custom notification is a message. It's the same message that's delivered at a call-in, but to someone who is not currently under the management of parole or probation, that we want you safe, alive, and out of jail, that we can help you, and that my goal is to save your life, if you will let me. So that was very effective. I got somewhat in the doghouse with our current chief because I did a motion that most people think baseball players are superstitious. Cops got baseball players beat. But we will notice that after the customs, there was a period of calm. Just as I did an analysis of 90 days before call-in, 45 days before call-in, and 90 days and 45 days afterwards. And we saw a marked slowdown in gun violence. I'm not ever going to sit here or stand anywhere and say that Project Longevity or the New Haven Police Department or our collaborative efforts are the best. We can always improve. We are always looking to improve. We are open to criticism, and it's about being about it and not talking about it. We have too many people that talk but do nothing. I would rather them not say a mumbling word and then move mountains. On top of that, Project Longevity is looking to host a customs notification workshop for those in the community. Now, I can say that we probably have at least maybe 12 to 15 residents that are online to.
Uh-oh. Stacy, take a time out and get your computer back.
Very integral part of being part of the custom notification team. We want to enhance that. It's important, Alder Antunes, that when we go to these young men or sometimes young women's homes, that we have people who look like them, who speak like them, who have empathy. And even if you don't look like them, because Carl Jacobson is probably one of the most effective people conducting custom notifications, it's having that air of concern that we don't want, or they don't want to lock you up. Locking you up means we failed. But if we can reach you through logic and reasoning and give you a hand up, not a handout, and help change your situation, we're going to do that. So that is in the making. I'm just waiting for a confirmation date. It'll be held at the New Haven Police Academy in the evening. We have our 21st Project Longevity New Haven call-in coming up next Thursday, June 10th from 4:30 to 6:30 in the basement of 200 Orange Street at the Kennedy Mitchell Hall. At this time, we have about 25 people slated. That always shifts from the time that it occurs. But the consistent part of hosting the call-ins, getting the message out there, getting the message to the young men that the violence will not be tolerated, that we are all in this together, community as well as police, and that we want them safe, alive, and out of jail. And if we can help change their circumstances, we'll do that. So that is in the work. We hired a social services coordinator. I can't announce it yet, but it's someone that's going to be a good fit for our organization. The irony is they won't be starting for a little while. But nevertheless, I still have big shoulders, and I'm doing double duty as the social services coordinator as well as the program manager. And lastly, we are at a point where I am on a soapbox. My soapbox continually evolves and becomes adaptive. And the thing that I'm standing on now is that the situation that is occurring in our urban areas, not only New Haven, not only Waterbury, Bridgeport, and Hartford, but all across the country. In every urban area across the country, we've seen an uptick in gun violence. Mm-hmm. And that it's going to take more than the police. It's going to take more than law enforcement. Law enforcement used to be the most dysfunctional family there was, but here in New Haven, and that's what people are amazed at, we are able to collaborate with DEA, with FBI, with ATF, with postal inspectors, with federal probation, local departments, state departments. Here we found an effective way of collaborating where it's not just it's all about us, and that us makes a big difference. No.
Stacy, you'll have to learn sign language or something.
So my wife is on another Zoom community meeting at the same time. And then our son is upstairs, and I'm sure he's on his computer too. But what I was saying is that the community has to play a role. It's time out for just pointing the fingers at law enforcement and remembering that there are 3 fingers pointing back at you. What are you doing about the situation? What role are you playing? The community has to step up. This isn't just about the police. The police can't arrest their way out of this. You can't make enough arrests to calm the violence. The community has to play a role. And going back, for me, and for you, it's going back to that village mentality. We see the fight getting ready to happen on the street. We step out our door. Hey, what are you doing? You can't, hey, come on, you brothers. It's about all of us stepping up and intervening. Stop waiting for the body to hit the pavement before we do something. Stop waiting for the fight to break out and the guns to come out before we do something. So that's where I'm at now, as well as trying to get as many of our clients COVID vaccinated. That's a large population that normally does not see the doctors. And as I come in contact with them doing the social services work, they're unvaccinated. So we've got to change that. That's it for Project Longevity New Haven. We're always at anyone's service. I will partner with anyone who wishes to do something positive in the community. It's time out for egos and personalities, and it's time for all of us to step up to the plate. Thank you, Alder Antunes.
Right. Thank you, Reverend Spell. Oh, good preaching there. Thank you, Stace. I want to move on to DEA. DEA was not with us at the first meeting, but I'm sure that Chief Jacobson had talked to them through that time, and they have some input for us. So is it Agent John Rubenstein? Would you state your name and address? And
evening. Supervisory Special Agent John Rubenstein with the DEA here in New Haven at 55 Church Street, New Haven, Connecticut.
Thank you, sir. Give us your info, please.
DEA is actively involved in cases here in New Haven. We are actively involved with the police department. We're partners with the police department, with the FBI, with ATF. We daily go to meetings. We have a series of proactive cases we're doing right now, targeting the people who we believe are responsible for the violence and the drug distribution. Fentanyl is here, is taking up a majority of our cases. And with our fentanyl cases, the distributors are involved in violence. We work with the police departments every day and targeting the right organizations. We dedicate people to New Haven on a full-time basis. We have intel analysts, we have agents, we have task force officers. We're all involved in this. I've said this before at other meetings, your problems are our problems. I've been an agent here for over 20 years. And the relationships we have with the other law enforcement and the prosecutors, both state and federal, are amazing. And we do a lot of good cases. Not only do we do proactive cases here in New Haven, but when there's a problem, the specific problem, we're reactive. If the chief or police department calls us to be out there or to do a case or go to an area that's involved in heavy drug trafficking, we stop what we're doing and we go out there and we do it. We have the flexibility, and it's a priority in management for DEA to respond to these things. DEA is not normally a reactive agency, but here in New Haven, we are reactive. And when the police ask us for something, we give it to them 100%.
Excellent. We appreciate your help and your input. I just, for the record, and I'm sorry I passed this up, but I noticed wanted to recognize Alder Sal DeCola, our third officer, who's joined us as well. Thank you, Sal. Let's see. I don't think I didn't see Pastor Kimber. Was he here, Mr. Lucas?
He is not, sir.
Okay. How about Dr. Dalal?
No, Dr. Dalal is not with us at this time.
All right. Ms. Rebecca Bombero, did you have any input from Dr. Dalal? I know you were here last time for the last meeting with him.
So Dr. Dalal sends his regrets. He had a conflict tonight, but he continues to work collaboratively on a lot of diversionary programs. We have opened the Reentry Center in partnership with Project More, which I know they're very proud of and is a great service to those reentering the community. We're continuing to work on the crisis response model in collaboration with PD, the fire department, PSAP, and CMHC. I'm sure he could elaborate a lot more, but those are the highlights of the work. Also, as part of the summer reset program, a lot of the projects put forth for the summer spend on American Recovery Act dollars center around safety and community safety, from the diversionary programs building upon the success of what is the new name for Youth Stat? I'm sorry. Somebody can correct me. Project Connect, I want to say.
Youth Connect.
Youth Connect, there you go. But working with mental health providers, just a whole range of different diversionary programs. Also youth engagement programs. The youth department has put together a wide variety of programs for youth engagement. And then what I'm calling Clean and Safe, modeled after our Clean and Safe sweeps, which we have done 4 of since we met in February and have 2 scheduled for this month, is the environmental side of safety, making sure that the low-level issues of blight and trash, lighting are addressed to help engage people in the spaces. Stealing from Stacy Spell again, because I love it. Occupy the space, get people comfortable and out and engaged. So through beautification projects, we're building upon the ambassador programs for all the neighborhoods to engage kids with jobs in cleaning up their neighborhoods. And really having city staff, including the police department, help mentor them and show them positive role models and engagement. So that's a quick overview of some of the stuff the coordinators have been working on.
Well, thank you. I just ask that you don't forget the east side of the city. Now, just because the Grand Avenue Bridge is closed, there are other means to get on the east side of the Quinnipiac River.
We were up in the annex earlier. We'll be over to Bishop Woods later this summer, early fall.
If you need any help, you have to get a pass signed or something to get here. I'm sure the chief of staff can guide you over. All right, so we've heard from all of our attendees, and now I'd like to open the floor for questions from our committee members, starting with my vice chair, Alder Wingate.
Thank you, Chair. I really don't have a question, but I don't know if you can see Sean Madison is on. I don't know if you want to present before I give my statement.
No, I'm good, Alder. If you just want to go ahead and roll out your statement.
Okay. No, thank you for all that you've been doing over the last 4 months. We appreciate you coming back. Mr. State Rep Al Pellalillo was being modest around Project Longevity, because 2011 we ushered in Project Longevity as the public safety vice chair of public safety. So great work what you're doing with all the talent on this Zoom call tonight. I know that we're going to do the best that we can do to continue on trying to slow down this violence, because it is a hard job. So thank you for all that you're doing. If I did have a question, it would be to the chief in reference to the community-based policing project how would you go by determining which streets those extra beats will be on?
So it's driven by our collaboration between the Intel Center, the Detective Bureau, our plainclothes units, to say, where do we think, if violence has happened, is there a propensity for it to retaliate in an area? If that is the case, we want to, kind of blanket that area with positive policing and engagement. If for some amazing reason that is not the case, we're going to go into areas where we're getting community concerns. So I know we have Alder Honda Smith on here. So we're making sure that we're seeing some, because we have been seeing a lot of activity in, Makani Terrace and over there, so that we're seeing some resources that can kind of move from one area of her ward to another, because we're seeing some concentration of crime over there where we normally hadn't seen in the past couple months. So a multitude of ways we're letting the district managers who really have the pulse, in collaboration with the Detective Bureau, who can see, who are looking at trends in a different way based on project longevity and group and gang. So that's how we're doing it. And obviously, if our members here have issues, reach out to your district manager. We'll try to do our best to put them in the areas where you're getting concerns from your constituents.
Thank you so much. And that is June 10th at 4:00 at 200 Orange Street for the call-in with Stacy Spell. Okay. Thank you. Keep up the great work.
At 4 p.m., right, Stacy? 5 p.m.?
4 or 5?
I still have Stacy at capacity limits for COVID, so.
Yes.
Oh,
so I ask people to get there. Like, as Becky says, we still have capacity limits. But for those that would like to attend, I ask that you get there well in advance, because once the doors close, I don't let anybody in. The message is too important to have interruptions. So Becky and I will be talking out the logistics again. And yes, but if you're there by 4:30, we'll be fine. I'd like to start at 4:30. I'm sorry. I'd like everybody in place by 4:30, start by 5, and we're over by 6:10. We're out the door.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
you,
you, all the chiefs, all the lieutenants, all the state reps, all the alders on the call. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Now move on to Alder Crespo. You have a question for any of the law enforcement people?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have a question. I do just have a comment kudos to the departments that are coming together and collaborate. I can certainly say that within my community, we need more officers, not less. My community is asking for more beats, not less. And certainly the conversation that is happening today will benefit our community as a whole, because we definitely understand that there's multiple dynamics, there's variables that has caused a spike in crime. So just working together, having different agencies, being able to come to the table and putting aside the fact that, for lack of a better term, it's almost like, oh, I'm FBI, no, I'm DEA, no, I'm the NHPD, no. So instead of just having to, the fact is that in New Haven, we do have that relationship. We have established the ability to work together, and hearing that we are having what I believe down in South Carolina, being able to make arrests and reducing the amount of guns, and having the ability to use the bill that we have here in Connecticut and in another state, just talks about how instrumental the collaboration efforts play in this city. So I just want to say kudos to each and every one of the departments that are here. I want to thank also the chief of police, the assistant chief, and Alder Polillo, as well as the other chiefs and representing the other agencies here, because truly we definitely need to have this conversation continuing to go on so that we can come up with strategies and have ideas on how to tackle this crime that is happening in our city, especially during this pandemic. Now that at least some of the things have opened and the state is coming to open again, we definitely want to be able to do it in a safe capacity. So I just want to say thank you for keeping to the commitment that we started early in the year and ensuring that what you said you were going to do, you were going to do. So thank you for delivering. Thank you for being true to your word. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Alder Crespo. Next is Alder Roth. Any
Thank you.
questions or comments?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to everyone, one, for presenting tonight, and two, for all your hard work and working together, which obviously is so important right now. I do have a few questions. I guess my first question is looking at the American Response Act and the Summer Reset Plan, which I think all the things suggested make a lot of sense, but it's very time limited. And so my question is sort of, do you think those things will sort of have a lasting impact, or is your thought that this is almost like a pilot, you'll see what's most effective and then seek to continue funding those things that are most effective?
So the youth programs and the infrastructure programs are definitely time limited in terms of the need and but also the scope. We wanted to be mindful of the community process that's going to be taking place. Some of Dr. Dalal's programs are longer term, just because the startup time and investment makes more sense over an annualized basis rather than just a few months. Some of the corrections, there's some of the youth stuff that could be continued, and I would presume that will be very well received through the community engagement process as well. But as we scoped the clean and safe, it would be great, especially on the ambassador program, to repeat it. And some of the beautification, just having supplies and staff availability for community cleanups. But the rest of the projects are just short-term infrastructure on the small scale, as opposed to the larger scale things that would be considered as part of the community engagement process.
Thank you. I guess my next question, it was very interesting hearing about the Intel Center, and I think, is it NIBIN you used to with the casings and ShotSpotter. And I don't have a sense if like Hartford, Bridgeport, Waterbury have similar capability, one, if they have ShotSpotter, and if they are also analyzing the ballistics, and like if the crime is sort of across cities, or if we don't know because they're not tracing it. I just have no sense of that, and I'd be interested to hear about that.
Chief, all right if I take this one? So that's a great question. Bridgeport and Hartford do use NIBIN. The issue in Bridgeport was they never put it into the centralized system with the ATF and the state lab. They had a hand guy that looked by eye and made the comparisons for years and years and years. So they actually got a car recently, like a truck, and they sent it down to Bridgeport and they put all the shell casings back through. And it's interesting because hits that we didn't have years ago started to hit because he never looked at our hits. So yes, there is some overlap, Hartford, Bridgeport, and us. Not as much as you would think. It's people who met in like juvenile detention, right? They meet in juvenile detention. They start to commit crimes when they get out. They become adults and they pass guns, stuff like that. But it's a smaller size things, but we do talk to Hartford and Bridgeport frequently. Whenever those hits come in, if it's a Hartford case, so we've had a Hartford homicide hit off a shooting in New Haven, you know what I mean? And then we're able to give them what we have and they give us what they have, and we're able to make a better case together. So that has happened a lot more recently. But it's not as, we're not getting 50 hits a week or anything, or even 50 hits a month that are interchangeable. I would say if there's 5 a month between all 3 cities, that's a lot. So yes, it does happen. But like I said, Bridgeport was behind the 8 ball, but now they're putting everything in.
Great. Thank you so much for that explanation. My next question is, I'm thinking of the community crisis response team, which I'm excited, very excited is starting to happen, or the planning for it. I guess sort of, are you planning ahead that will sort of free up time for the police that currently are, it's to be determined exactly what % of time. Sort of, are you making plans now for what you will do with that extra time. Will you have more walking beats all over, things like that? I'd be curious to hear about that.
I'd be glad to answer that one. So I think initially we're going to be looking at community crisis in a collaborative response so that we can figure out what works, what doesn't work, how we can have mental health professionals respond on their own. So we're not going to feel the immediate maybe resource allocation of extra resources. But I do think that once we're able to really get this program going, and in reality, it's going to be some time to kind of make this to be the best program to fit New Haven, because it's about making it work for us and our needs, and the community's needs. But yes, we'll be able to, potentially do more traffic enforcement where we need that. We'll be able to do more walking beats. The district managers and the officers themselves will be very thankful to have the ability to have officers on different types of calls and doing different types of things, and then and having someone else respond to some problems that we definitely think can be handled better by someone with drug addiction expertise, homelessness, and things of that nature.
Great, thank you, and I appreciate that. Will take some time, and it sounds like it will kind of be at the district manager level, perhaps, at those how to then use those extra resources when the time does come. Just, Mr. Chair, one very quick additional question. I was just someone, is that okay?
Last question.
Yeah. So, and this is it may have been Chief Dominguez in remarks said that, or I forget who said it, but that they're working with the shooting task force and finishing up signing MOUs. So I was just curious, sort of, who those parties are. And I know someone mentioned that they're, I think it was maybe FBI, kind of going to be signing on. So just if you could list who will be part of it, that would be great.
Absolutely. So we have commitments from obviously Yale, who's fantastic and already giving us resources and has always in the past. Our federal partners, ATF and FBI, also, they're the ones who mentioned it in this forum here. And then locally, we have Madison, we have West Haven, we have Meriden, we have East Haven.
Hamden.
There you go. That's our last one. So we really have more support and collaboration than we've ever had in the past. So it's really fantastic to be able to be thinking of this not just in New Haven, right? Because things are coming in from other places and things are affecting other towns. Our residents, our individuals are doing violence in other areas and vice versa. So to be able to think of this on even a bigger level, I really think we're going to be able to decrease crime kind of overall, not just thinking about it in our little corner.
Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Alder. Next, Alder Singh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to shout out thank you to our chief, assistant chief, and our state and federal and agencies, especially Yale, for contributing and assisting our PD. I was elated to hear, because the last time I was critical in the ATF, and I'm happy to hear that we have some feedback on that and they're pursuing and making some changes. So that's I'm happy that we're going forward and hope they stay that course so we could keep more guns from coming into our city here. Thank you.
So, and Alder Smith, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to circle back around to asking Becky, if possible, in regards to the ambassador program. I know last year I ran an ambassador program with children that were from the community, which was very successful. My question to you, with the city running an ambassador program, are they going to reach out to the children in the neighborhood so that they can have the opportunity to work into their own community? And I ask that for two reasons. One of the reasons is that once you put other children from other areas into another neighborhood, it becomes a problem because we don't know who have a problem with turf, right? And the other reason that I ask, because I don't want to see anyone from the suburbs to come into the communities to work here, and our children don't get the opportunity to be able to work. So I would like to know if the city will be hiring from within the different communities where these children live at, and that cuts crime down also because it gives them a chance to make a wage so that they can buy small stuff, right?
That is the goal. When the Board of Alders considers this finally on Monday of next week, on Tuesday, I sit down with the Youth at Work staff to review the individuals that applied through Youth at Work that have yet to be placed, to match them geographically, and where there are shortages, where there haven't been applicants for that area, we'll be reaching out through community leaders to help identify additional youth to fill those slots. We're going to be staffing 50 throughout the city, so 5 for each of the policing districts.
My other question to you would be, since you said they're staffing 5 to each police district, because we do run a summer program for the ambassador program out here. If they can coordinate with myself in 30 where we're running the program, so we're not doing duplications of services, that would be extremely great.
Absolutely. There are a couple of programs that do exist. In addition to yours, there's some at Edgewood Park and some of the other Parks Friends groups. So we would work collaboratively to be additive rather than duplicative.
So my second question would be to Chief Dominguez. I want to first of all thank you and the team. Also, I want to thank you for an awesome lieutenant, in which we have out here, Lieutenant Rosa, who has been extremely helpful, and not just helpful, he's been extremely involved into the activities that has been happening in his district, and he cares, and I appreciate that. But my question is this: we have a rash of youth violence that has been happening throughout the city of New Haven. And the youth violence seems to be happening between the ages of 13 to 18. From each one of these children either shooting and killing or plotting to shoot and kill other young people that are in the street. My question is, what are we doing in regards to the youth violence? How are we curtailing? Because I understand that once we arrest the youth, they're back on the streets and so on. And these youth need a lot of wrap around services. I was just faced with the youth where mom couldn't deal with him anymore. So mom put him out and gave him to the wolves, which is not good for that to happen. So he's still out here in this neighborhood. Either they're finding these guns randomly, they're shooting in the air. They cannot control the guns, so they're shooting up people's houses. And they're getting them from somewhere, right? So how are we going to deal with this youth violence? Because too many kids, and this is what really hurts me the most, too many kids have been killed within the last week in regards to other youth carrying the gun to get revenge. Which way are we going to deal with this violence here?
I'm going to go, and then also Chief Jacobson can jump in, because he's intimately connected with Youth Connect, and they meet and talk. They meet weekly, but they're talking even more commonly than that when there's an issue between Kate Gunning and juvenile probation, between Huggy and his team, Leonard, Johan, Chief Jacobson, everyone from the school. The group of individuals, it's a small group of kids, right, that are causing a lot of the violence that you're speaking of. The problem is, once we arrest them, not having abilities to hold like we used to in the past, but we do have, and Chief Jacobson will say, a good understanding of the kids that are doing the violence, and trying to provide resources and trying to engage them so that we can begin to stop the violence and make sure that they're getting, a lot of times it's parental issues, a lot of times it's they're not in school, a lot of times they just need something, that need is not being met. And it's important on how we're going to meet that need. How are we going to meet that mom, that grandma, that dad who needs more help? But Chief Jacobson, if you want to go into a little bit more on that, I know you do a lot with them.
Yeah, I know that, for the most part, we're catching and releasing juveniles, right? But I think we built a trustworthy system with Kate Gunning and the juvenile judges. So just for an example, we had a kid that his brother was killed and he then was engaging in gunfire and we caught him with a gun. So there was a big push from the family to get him out of juvenile detention, but we see the risk. Like the brother was possibly not killed for something he did. We believe the other kid was a target, but we have such a good communication with court now, and kind of, because we're at a situation like we got to do something. You got to help us do something. So this kid was not allowed to be put, go back to the streets at this time because of the safety issues. So they actually are listening to us where they weren't listening to us maybe 6 months ago. So through juvenile probation with Kate Gunning, Len Jihad doing follow-ups, Huggy doing follow-ups, we're able to do more than we were in the past, and with that direct communication with court. When it comes to shots fired and actual homicides and shootings, we're getting a little more teeth than we had before, even if it's only for a couple weeks, which in turn slows down the kid and slows down the violence. That's all we got right now. Then we're hoping that those follow-ups from Len and Huggy and the other things that the deputy CAO we're talking about can hopefully save some of these kids and pull them off of that stuff. It's almost like you need that pause. I don't believe kids should go in jail for any long period of time, but we're in the middle of a back and forth. We need that pause. And I think for the first time, I would say in a year, we're actually getting assistance from the court to get that pause. So that just happened today. So, I sigh because it hurts us. We don't want to see these kids out, but we also don't want to see these kids in, right? What do you do? So we're hoping to get that pause. We're hoping to enact those services and get them out of the violent situations they're in.
Say that because it hurts the parents really hard, and the parents are now afraid of these children, and it's just not in this area. We're talking citywide. The parents are afraid of their children because they are carrying, and they're afraid of what these kids may do to them because they have no more remorse for anyone, especially after they shot someone. Who is it to say that they're not going to turn the gun around and try to shoot one of their loved ones? And that's what I'm hearing from parents. So we definitely need to work on all kinds of services, even the wraparound services around mom, grandma. It needs to be services for them so they know how to deal and how to cope with this minor child that's being very disrupted and want to hang with his buddies in the street and knowing that's not the way they're being brought up. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for this time.
Thank you, Alder Smith.
Mr. Chair, could I interrupt for a second? I just wanted to point out Matthew Duffy from the U.S. Marshal Service has joined us. I asked him to join us. I just wanted to point that out.
I was just going there too. Thank you, Chief. Before I get to my questions, Matthew Duffy from the U.S. Marshal's Office. We didn't have any representation the last time. I'm glad you're able to join us this time. Mr. Duffy, introduce yourself if you can. I guess you're just on the phone. Name and address for the record, please, sir.
Yeah. Yes, hello, sir. My name's Matt Duffy. I'm the supervisor of the U.S. Marshals Violent Fugitive Task Force here in Connecticut, sir.
Great. And could you weren't here at the last meeting, so could you offer some input to this committee on what the Marshal Service can do to help to reduce or alleviate the violence in the city of New Haven?
Yes, sir. The Marshal Service, we stand united with the community and also the New Haven Police Department. And we try to target the violent fugitives that are disrupting the communities, not just in New Haven, but throughout Bridgeport, Hartford, because the small percentage of these violent fugitives, in my opinion, account for a lot of the crimes and a lot of the violence taking place within these communities.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for your input.
Yes, sir.
So it's my turn. I'm the last guy, and I hope some people will bear with me because a couple of my questions may be a little bit more technical, but we'll go easy. Let's start with New Haven, Chief Dominguez, Chief Jacobson. You mentioned the PAL program, the camp, and that you're looking to have 80 kids in there between 8 and 11 years old. When does that start?
It starts the first week in July after 4th of July. So July 6th, and it will run through the 23rd.
Now, how are the kids selected for this program? I know you mentioned the applications put in, but is it only kids from New Haven, or will it be kids from outside of the city?
It's only kids from New Haven. We've given applications to all of housing, to the schools. It's posted on our website. So you just have to fill out an application while space is available. And we're also going to have a wait list as well in case kids are unable to attend towards the end.
Okay, good. And this one will probably go to you, Chief Jacobson. I noticed from looking at some of the stats and information, there's been something that looks strange, odd to me, is that we're seeing more women that are shot and killed. Has the department looked at that? Is there something significant in that we've missed in the past? I mean, it's just not the norm.
No, I mean, we haven't had a spike in domestic violence related homicides. So, 2 of the women killed this year were domestic violence related. And then we believe, without getting too much into the investigation, that the woman shot recently was she wasn't the intended target. She was in the car with him. So yes, there has been an increase in women, but that's related to domestic violence, which, not to be repetitive, but you throw that back to the pandemic and everybody kind of cooped up and tempers flaring to the point of where it would be just normal violence. We've actually had homicides, and those 2 homicides have been cleared. But yes, I would definitely agree with you. There has been a spike.
All right, to Chief Dominguez again. The task force are nice. And I know there was a time there when you had reduced the number of members on the task force, the various task force, because you just needed them on the street. How many officers are we losing from the street now to staff even this shooting task force? Because I think we had cut back on that a couple of years ago, didn't we?
Yeah, we won't be losing anybody. We're using already resources that we have to be placed into the shooting task force. And Chief Jacobson, what's our total of officers, silver badges that are in various task forces currently?
Including the shooting task force, I believe it's 9. So,
but our thought behind that is we're able to multiply our resources. So we put 1 officer into FBI, ATF, wherever, and as you know, we get all of their resource and all of the other resources in the collaborative departments who are joining those task force. So it multiplies us. While it pulls from the regular 911 calls, it allows us, especially in a time of violence, to be able to target and address the violence on a larger scale with more technology, more resources, more bodies to be on the street.
yeah, and on that point too, just to elaborate more what the chief said, we've asked our federal partners to actually pull some crime suppression shifts with our regular, where they're going out into areas that we've identified that are more violent, and they're riding around with our plainclothes officers, which, so you'll see some FBI jackets, you'll see some DEA jackets, you'll see some ATF jackets. That enables them to say they get a gun that night off of a suspect, and the ATF's interested in taking that person. Now they're out there with us. Now they're getting more information about the city. They're more invested in the city. So it's a tactic we used years ago, but we're using it again, and it seems to be working.
Great. I know it does work, and I know it's a certain amount of sacrifice, but it's needed. But the community is also concerned about walking beats. And in regards to walking beats, some areas, like my area, for instance, where we have one of the active gangs, we'll say, walking beats are kind of difficult out here. Do you have an alternative? I mean, is something else you're going to do differently out here in this area or the East Shore area overall? Even in all the Dakotas area, I mean, houses are really spaced far apart. It's not like in Dixwell or Newhall or the Hill.
Yeah, the district managers have the option to deploy either walking beats or bicycle beats so that they can cover more of an area and get to those type of areas where it's harder to walk. It doesn't make as much sense, but we still want that visibility. We still want that interaction. We still want out of the vehicle.
Right. I know one time what really worked well in this area was the park and walks, because I mean, we have no sidewalks. So, I mean, it's a little bit more challenging. I had another question for FBI. Are you still here?
Yes, sir. I'm still here.
There he is. Yeah, there he is. I got to look. You know what happens? People talk and the pictures move around. So you got to kind of look around to find out if somebody is still here. All right. Altamari, Mr. Altamari, or Special Agent. A few years ago, the FBI had a program for kids, like an introductory to FBI or law enforcement. Is that program still running, or is there any thought about bringing it back?
Yeah, so I think you're referring to our Explorer program.
Yes.
Basically taking in youth, teaching them a little bit about some of the things we do and so forth. Yes, it's still in the running. I think COVID put a little bit of a kind of a stop on it for the year. And I would assume it's going to get started back up. I can definitely follow up on the person that would be running that stuff, but it is in play.
Good. I mean, if you could get us some information how we could get kids involved, what the requirements are, age limits, et cetera, I think that would be helpful for us in getting the word out to our communities that this is available.
Absolutely, sir.
Thank you. I know they had something one time out of the FBI Academy too, a program, a little more involved, but they did have a program out of the National Academy. And my last question, the last question I have is for Mr. Spell. My question is very easy, so should be very quick and easy for you to answer. You have a lot to present, a lot of information on the program. Do you generally go to any of the management team meetings and present this and tell them about what the program is, et cetera?
So I do attend the management team meetings. Matter of fact, tonight would normally be the Dwight management team. I do attend probably half of them in the city. And that's due to I'm only one person. And we have 10 management teams. So I make probably about 5 or 6 of them.
12
And some of it's, I'm sorry, sir?
12 management teams.
Oh, don't get me going. Don't get me going.
Sorry,
Yes.
you got to split yourself just a little bit thinner.
So there are some management teams that as soon as that I'm always in attendance and I'm always given space to speak. And the same thing I just said to you, I do in an elevator speech, a 3-minute speech. And then there are some management teams that I go to that I will not get a nod, that there are certain, I don't want to stick this team out, that if they're disseminating literature, they will make sure that I don't get it. There are some management teams that are still resistant to different thought and trying to do business in a new way. We have to.
Wait. Regroup.
So I'm getting that the host has muted me. Can you hear me now?
No. Your bandwidth is too small.
Yes, and especially if we have 3 people on. Like my wife is on at the Dwight meeting. So as I said, there are some management teams that allow me to speak. I speak every month at their meeting. Updates, what's going on, events, so on, and my little soapbox speech. And as I said, then there are some management teams where I am treated as if I am a hostile interloper who has nefarious thoughts and designs. So you do what you can. The key is being consistent and being engaging and keep trying. But not all the management teams are open to hearing me.
Okay. I understand that. I mean, they're all individual groups with different focuses. So I can understand that, but I appreciate you going out there and pitching your program. I think it does help. And keep working. You only have a bunch more to go to. All right, I was going to end this meeting, but we see that Mr. Jihad has joined us, and I would like to give him an opportunity to speak briefly and offer his input on what his Connecticut violence program can do to help eliminate some of the crime that's happening in New Haven. Mr. Jihad, your name and address to start, please.
Hi, good evening. Leonard Jihad, Executive Director of Connecticut Violence Intervention Program. The work address is 230 Ashman Street. I'm here in New Haven. I'm a resident of Westville, New Haven also. Do you like my home address or the work address?
That's okay. Work was fine.
Gotcha. So I supervise a group of street outreach workers or credible messengers, those who were in that life. The prior time, they redeemed themselves, and now they're working. I say their capacities has gone from law breaking to law abiding. Some of the names that, if I call out, you'll know: William Juneboy Outlaw, Tyrone Whitaker, aka Tiger, Pepe Vega, and I have a young lady, just a recent hire, Jelani Santiago. So with these folks, they've all been victims of community violence and or perpetrators of community violence, including Jelani, who was a victim of domestic violence assault, by her child's father. So we work with the riskiest youth in the community. So by risky behavior, we talk about, so-called gang or group involvement, being a perpetrator or a victim of violence. So we not only work with perpetrators of violence, we also work with the victims of violence also. So we're currently contracted by the city of New Haven, Yale New Haven Hospital, and also the town of Hamden. So our population right now, we're regrouping. There's another group of kids that are coming off the porch. So we're almost, I hate to say it, almost like a year behind. So we do have the building at 230 Ashman. So we do case management. We visit the schools, go see the kids where they are in the community. After schools, the kid would come to the program, receive tutoring by a tutor from UNH or Yale, and then they could game, Xbox, PlayStation, or go to a music studio that we have actually in the building. So, with the COVID and the quarantine, they weren't able to come to the building. We just recently reopened, but it's been slow going, and we are having a lot of meetings, with intelligence for New Haven Police Department, Youth Services, Youth and Recreation Department, Juvenile Probation, to try to identify the most risky youth. So while we're a mentoring program, we address the most risky youth, the ones that are engaged in the most risky activity. And they've also worked with the reentry population, although it's not in our contract. We do work with the reentry population also, and we do a lot of mediation amongst them.
Okay, great. Like to see you guys keep up the good work. I asked my last question, but I will give our committee members, I said we wouldn't go real long, and we're less time than we were at the last meeting, so I hope to keep to that. Do any of the committee members, any of my colleagues have one more question they'd like to ask? Signal. And I get the signal from Alder Roth. One question you'd like to ask, ma'am?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It would be great. I don't know if Representative Hill.
No, he had the lead.
Yeah, I actually would love to know, and maybe Mr. Spell can just share. I wasn't sure if the bill for Project Longevity is, I think it said something about expanding to water, but also is it basically a funding bill? I'd love to, I actually hadn't known about that, and I'd just love to know more details as to what's in it. Maybe frozen.
Yeah, I can answer that. It is a funding bill and that, I believe it's, I don't know the length of time, but it was, oh, Stacy's back. Stacy, you want to answer that?
It is our usual funding bill. It is what provides
How about this? Alder Roth, I know you have Representative Palillo's information. We can get you Mr. Spell's information so you can give them a call and get your questions answered that way so we don't lose.
Sure, thanks.
Mr. Spell. Mr. Spell, tell your family next time you're on the computer, they got to stay off. Like that'll work, right?
Right.
All right, seeing no other questions, I'm going to close this. And I will say this: prevention and developing solutions are important in reducing crime. We can't just respond after the fact. Those days are gone. The foundation of community policing is proactive problem solving. That's to help prevent crimes from
What was that,
happening
honey?
and strengthen police and community relations. There's a significant concern around recruiting officers. And this I'll kind of direct toward you, Ms. Dumas. On that, I turn to the many community-based agencies, the management teams, and even the clergy to encourage and recommend local men and women to become police officers. You know, I find, and I'm sure the chiefs will back this up, is we don't get a whole lot of input from community groups when it comes to recruiting. Don't just leave it to the police. Remember, many of them live outside of the city, and they're the ones doing the recruiting. So we need to recruit from within. We've got plenty of social service agencies and groups, NAACP, clergy groups, all in the city. There's got to be some young folks that you can recommend or encourage to get into law enforcement. And that includes Mr. Spell also. You come into contact with a lot of the people other than those that you deal with on your programs there. So that recruiting needs to be at least started from at home. So with that being said, there are no other questions. And I'd like to thank all of our partner, New Haven Police Partners, for participating in these two workshops and for collaborating together. It's important. It's something that's come a long ways over the years. And I think New Haven's one of the few places that are doing it, and hopefully that'll spread because New Haven sets a trend around the country. And we've seen that in many areas from child study programs to community policing and all over. Those things spread from New Haven. And I'm confident in our New Haven police officers that they can address and resolve some of these crimes. It's going to take a little bit more work than maybe they've done or are used to doing, but they can do it. I got confidence in them. And the leadership is going to be there to crack the whip. So, Mr. Vice Chair, do I see? There you are. Did I see your hand up, sir?
No, sir.
I thought you were going to make a motion.
I will. I make a motion that we adjourn.
Seconds.
The motion is made and seconded. Seeing it's a motion to adjourn, there is no discussion. So we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.